Amid soaring tensions in West Asia and Iran's closure of the Strait of Hormuz, oil prices surged beyond $75 a barrel mark, up by almost 10% in a single day. Analysts say prices could soon touch the $100 mark, but Iran now says there is no plan to close the Strait of Hormuz. 3 people killed, over 50 injured, including Indian workers in Iranian strikes on the UAE country's defense ministry says it has intercepted 165 ballistic missiles from Iran. Iran's missiles still penetrate the Iron Dome. Central Israel's Beit Shemesh has been pounded, leaving at least 5 people dead and several others injured. Israel claims deliberate attack on civilian areas, a hypersonic missile used, reportedly. Frenzied crowd lays siege to the U.S. Consulate in Karachi, resulting in massive clashes with U.S. security forces. Reports indicate at least 10 locals killed and many others injured. Protesters also tried to storm the consulate in Lahore. Thousands take to the streets across several Indian cities to mourn the death of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Protesters also gather outside the U.S. consulate in Chennai to protest the killing of Iran's supreme leader. Thank you for staying with us. The Middle East is now engulfed in a full-scale regional war. In a stunning development, Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, has been eliminated in a joint US-Israeli strike on Tehran. The operation, codenamed Epic Fury, is targeting Iran's nuclear sites. In retaliation, Tehran has unleashed a Fateh Khyber. And with that, the pledge that revenge is their duty. Waves of ballistic missiles at Tel Aviv and American bases across the Gulf. U.S. aircraft carrier USS Abraham Lincoln has also been attacked by Iran as part of its response against Washington. And for now, Ayatollah Arafi has been named the interim supreme leader. The conflict has spilled into the heart of the Gulf, with Dubai under direct attack. Flights from Dubai International Airport are halted as missile debris falls near the Palm Jumeirah and Burj Al Arab. Other Gulf nations, including Qatar, Bahrain, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia and Oman, are also under fire. Now, let's try and take a look at the areas targeted by Iran. There is Tel Aviv that's been targeted in Israel, the Israel financial center. There is also Ali Al Salem, that's the airbase in Kuwait, the US 5th Fleet stationed in Bahrain, and that's why there has been sightings and drops and Manama. Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar, and that's why Doha. Al Dhafra Air Base, this is in the UAE, that's where Dubai and Abu Dhabi have come under the radar. And of course, Riyadh in Saudi Arabia has also been targeted. There is also the Erbil Air Base in Iraq. So there are pictures. Clearly, they've been targeted. The Iranian point of view or claim has been that what was targeted was just the American air bases, not civilian areas in these countries. But there has been a lot of debris, explosions, and of course UAVs misdirected that have all come there and landed in civilian areas, causing damage, causing a certain level of alarm and panic in some of these areas, and residents then questioning, where do we go, how safe are we? Now, US bases in the Middle East have been struck. We've got big news coming through. The Al Salem naval base in Abu Dhabi has also been targeted by Iranian UAVs. No casualties have been reported, but pictures and update coming through at this point is that the Al Salem base in Abu Dhabi, naval base, has also now been targeted. There you go. These are pictures of an Omani tanker, oil tanker, that was pounded by Iranians as it tried to enter and cross the Strait of Hormuz. Sanjay Suri now joins us live. Sanjay, are you safe and well? It's been a long, tiring night for you too. But more importantly, your safety matters. How are the locals on ground? Whereabouts are you? What's the Israeli sentiment currently?
Well, I'm here in Tel Aviv, and Tel Aviv was hit last night. We know that one woman in her 40s was killed in a raid on an apartment block. A number of people were injured, and that entire block was razed. It was destroyed quite massively. Since then, there's been another attack on Beit Shemesh that you referred to, and the death toll there has risen from 5 to 8, and a number of the others injured are in quite critical condition. And there are some reports that the Fatah hypersonic missile was used here, as you were suggesting. So Israel is very much under fire. There are sirens sounding here from time to time. People are advised to take shelter. And given that the civilian population of Israel is, in effect, also a military population, people are rather disciplined in obeying those commands and directives. So Israel very much under fire, as expected. What is not expected is what countries like the UAE are going through, or Bahrain, Oman as well now, Kuwait. That is the surprise. They are quite unprepared for this kind of thing in all sorts of ways. They don't have matching air defenses in place. What is more, the civilian population is not mentally prepared for that kind of thing. In Israel, everyone is ready for this kind of thing. This is a country with people who seem to have nerves of steel. They can take anything. They can do it with their chin up and with a smile. This is not a shock here, although the problem is serious. But the shock and the fear is very much more across the Gulf region.
True, and they're showing lot of character, lot of courage, and that's also because, Sanjay, quickly before we go across to our guest, that's also because they've been dealing with this entire regime for nearly 5 decades now. A regime that has always called for death to Israel, wiping out of the Jews, along with calling for death to America, and has built so many proxies that has wanted the end of Jews and Israel. And Israel has borne all that. But on the other hand, there are also questions being raised, the truth behind the Israeli intention, that this entire greater Israel narrative is being talked about. And did Israel really want this for larger peace, or for trying to expand its footprint in and around this entire region?
At the moment, Anand, this is not about regional expansion. This is about Iran. And, for Israel, Iran has appeared an existential threat. And there were 3 aims in sight for the Israelis, naturally working and fighting this together with the Americans.
Right.
Number 1, a regime change. And of course, we've seen the Khamenei has been killed, as have been a lot of top people within the regime and at the top level of the military. Second, to seek to neutralize the nuclear capacities of Iran. And again, we have seen bombing at Isfahan and at other locations. The third is logistically the trickiest, which is to seek to neutralize the ballistic missiles. Of these, Iran has several thousand. They're scattered all over the place. They are being fired, and they are managing to get past defenses, even past Israel's 3-layered defense of the arrow, then the David sling, and then the Iron Dome. So
Right.
These have got through and have breached these defenses quite successfully, and we are just into the second day of this war yet.
Right, because they, as our military experts said, they're using a very, very smart strategy. The Iranians, they are no pushovers, and they are quite intelligent and advanced in their military technology, because they have also been gaming scenarios and perpetually been in conflict mode. It turns it. When you're constantly in war mode, you think perhaps differently. Sanjay Suri, stay safe. It was good to see you outdoors, and let's hope that it's a quieter day, quieter evening as we this Sunday for you too. Stay safe, and great work done on ground. Great work done on ground. The only Bharatiya reporter on ground in Israel right now is part of the News 18 family, and so proud of you, Sanjay. Thank you. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Let's go straight across to General VP Malik. General Saab, Jai Hind, Namaste. We also have Lieutenant General KJ Dhillon and also KJS Dhillon and also Sushant Sareen with us. Just an update coming through from the US Central Command. CENTCOM is saying that an Iranian Jamaran-class corvette was struck by US forces during the start of Operation Epic Fury. The ship is currently sinking to the bottom of the Gulf of Oman at a Chabahar port. And Iranian army members of the Revolutionary Guard and police must lay down their weapons. That's the call that's coming from the US Army. So, ये regime palat सत्ता बदल के रहेंगे is something that the Americans are very, very determined on. But Iran are no pushovers, General Malik. What should Bharat do? What should this region do? How do you see this escalating in the coming days? Your wisdom.
Jai Hind, Anand, and thank you for getting me on your panel. I see another soldier also with me on the panel with his yellow turban, very smart man. Uh, yes, the fact is that it has been an Israeli insecurity has been the major cause of whatever has been going on now for last 50 years. And the Iran has been causing that, and they have been using Hezbollah, Hamas, Houthis, etc. Not only to Israel but also to some other countries like the Saudi Arabia, Houthis are fighting there. Now, Israel and USA have, for the last 1 year, they have been indulging earlier in the coercive diplomacy, and now they have got involved in the armed coercion since the June 25 strikes last year. Earlier, the objective was nuclear facilities, but now it's quite obvious, and they are openly saying it is for regime change. My own feeling is that regime change is not so easy.
Jay.
And regime change, particularly a regime which has been there for the last 45 years and well entrenched, they have their own layers of command and control. They also have their own layers of armed forces. So as you notice that within about 36 hours now they have changed their supreme leader, somebody else has taken over. And that gives you an impression that this regime change is not going to be, despite the fact that some public in Iran is unhappy and they are suffering because of the economic struggle that they are having, but yet regime change doesn't come about so easily. And therefore, we may see for the next few days that this whole thing intensified, the war will get intensified, and we will have more casualties on both sides. And we will also have, of course, the economic losses and the economic suffering in all these countries.
But we have the Iranian. Jansab, sorry, I'm interrupting you because the latest update is that the Iranians have come out and said, the Iranian foreign minister has said that they don't have any plans to block the Strait of Hormuz. So this is different or variant to the IRGC's claim that they will close the Hormuz. But this just happened about 10-15 minutes back. We got this update. Yes, please continue.
Noted, Anit. But the fact is that, as you know, notice most of the shipping on their own, they have stopped going in that area. And in any case, all the airlines have stopped going into the Gulf region altogether. So it's going to be an economic loss for most people. After all, we know that almost 40%, 22%, sorry, of the oil in the world is going through this area, and 40% of the Indian energy also comes through this area. But I was talking to you, the other major thing that is going to happen and is going to affect for a long time, the Shia-Sunni divide.
Yeah.
That would definitely increase, as you notice from the kind of things that are happening in
General Malik
in West Asia. And so therefore, this is one, as far as India is concerned, of course, it's keeping itself away and trying to talk to both parties. But the fact is that the kind of things that are happening in Pakistan, we have to be careful within our own country. And the next worry would be how to save or how to bring back our people from this. We have a very large number of people, 9 million people in this area. Even Iran has about 1,200 students from J&K. So that is a large number that we have got. And they would naturally be crying for evacuation. I think how long it will continue, I think it will continue for some time, but it may come to an end when Iran may have the intention but may not have the capacity to take it further. So that is what we have to see.
Somewhere.
How soon and how long will they continue with the kind of capacity that they have with them at the moment.
Is there a greater intent? General Malik, my final question to you, sir, and then I'll bring in Lieutenant General KJS Dhillon and Sushant Sareen also. Is there a larger intent here? Not just wiping out Iran's nuclear program or ballistic manufacturing capacity and bring them down and peg them back and hold them there. But is there a larger US game that has China on its radar?
So that will be effect, but at the moment, I think their major aim is to change of regime. And once the regime is changed, that will result into some kind of another advantage that they may have as far as China is concerned. But at the moment, I am quite sure it is only regime change. And also, mind you, the USA has already declared that after the regime change, they do not want to step into it, and they want people of Iran to take over the situation.
Right. Now the OPEC nations have come out and said, General Dhillon, that they are going to additionally produce an additional 206,000 barrels a day. The OPEC nations includes Russia, includes Algeria, includes Saudi Arabia. So these are all nations. So Russian oil comes back into play now. What happens here? Then what happens to the war against Ukraine and trying to curb Russian impact there?
See, these are the booties of the war. Everyone will try and make the best out of the worst situation, and OPEC nations are not going to be left out. So they will produce more on the pretext that more the oil is not coming through the Persian Gulf or Strait of Hormuz, as General Malik very rightly said. So they will try and produce more so that they can make a quick buck out of it. Now, one or two points. I totally agree with General Malik about the regime change and the intentions of the USA. And also, we very rightly said that regime change don't happen like this. Unless you have the boots on ground, unless you have the people on ground, controlling the countryside, it is very difficult to exercise the regime change. What will happen in this particular case is, for the sake of it, somebody will be brought in and put in the place as a person who is control of the government. The whole of countryside, the IRGC people, the fighters will be all over the country, and there is going to be a civil war. The civil war is the worst thing which will happen, and we've seen in the past also, Americans leave the country in the lurch for themselves to find for themselves. So I'm afraid that type of situation will happen, and Iranians have a stomach for long haul. We have seen Iran-Iraq war, they fought for 10 years. So if the civil war happens, they will. It's in the DNA of the Israeli soldier, Israeli man, to face the hardships and fight for what he feels is right. But there are enough people in Iran who have been wronged by the present regime, who are keeping quiet as of now. They would raise their voice once they realize the present regime is falling. But that does not give them any command and control. There is no structure, there is no hierarchy, there are no commanders, there are no leaders. Individual people raising their voice will not bring in the regime change. For regime change, you need a network, you need a commander, you need a leader, you need a vision. And unfortunately, that is not in the near future.
Will someone beyond the son of the Shah emerge? Shah Raza Pahlavi doesn't evoke so much of confidence, but someone within the IRGC, someone within this entire leadership who's a little more pliant. They still have a religious clerical head who's restored, is there, but perhaps is a little more pliant. Like Maduro's next in line was the one who's now become very pliant with the Americans, and all is well in Venezuela, perceptibly. But I'm just saying something like that. Is it possible in Iran? Then that means, all right, you still have a clerical head, but that clerical head is not so far gone or anti-US like the other. He will perhaps wave a little bit of a rhetorical wand for some time, but then back off slowly. We have to wait and watch what actually comes about as this. But I'm also alarmed, viewers, irrespective of both sides are going to hurt. And heart goes out to what's happening in Iran and to a lot of people to whom the Khamenei meant a lot. Despite others believing that he was a radical dictator who denied women their rights, etc., etc. But there are those who thought that he's the spiritual head of the Shias. So there's there. But what allows a nation like America to decide, oh, I don't like you guys, I'm going to come and pound you, and I'm going to get away with it? Now, where's the rule and where's the sanctity in that? The same Americans tend to be sanctimonious when a Bharat or a China would do the same and say, oh, I don't like this country, I want to bomb it because to secure my own interests. The same thing Russia is doing, saying I'm doing this because I want to secure my interests, but Russia is the villain of the world. So it's quite ironical that one nation gets away with doing all that and becomes a hero while the others are all villains. How is that possible? The same question to also we have with us Major General Yaakov Amidror with us. Many people are saying Israel was itching for this because Israel has always wanted this fight and they wanted the Khamenei gone, and they finally got the Americans to bite after 3 decades of pleading and pleading with them. Would you agree with this, that this entire greater Israel that is also embedded on the Israeli defense forces, that's the larger agenda of Israel?
Not at all. Israel didn't attack Jordan. Israel didn't attack Egypt. Israel didn't attack other countries which are closer to Israel. It is Iran that in the last 45 years, talking, speaking, planning, investing, and build around Israel ring of fire. Who financed Hezbollah, which controlled Lebanon till the last war? Who financed Hamas, which initiated the 7th of October barbarian attack? Who financed Islamic Jihad, which was part of this attack? Who financed the Houthis in Yemen, which attacked Israel? We didn't know who are the Houthis are. And they decided to attack us on behalf of Iran. Who brought the militias into Syria and to Iraq? Iran, not Israel. It is not in Tel Aviv, and not in Jerusalem, but in Tehran. There was a big clock calling for the destruction of Israel before 27. And the Khamenei spoke about it all the time, that Israel should be destroyed totally because of religious and dreams of Iran to be the superpower of the Middle East. And yes, we had an open account with the Iranians since they built the ring of fire around Israel, since they made all the terror operations inside Israel and outside Israel. Remember, even in India, I remember myself traveling to India to speak with the Indian authorities when the Iranians succeeded to recruit an Iranian citizen to put a bomb in a car which belongs to the Israeli embassy in Delhi. So, all due respect, it was not initiated by Israel. Israel reacted to the huge plan of the Iranians in the last 45 years to destroy Israel. The fact that we are successfully now succeeding to kill those leaders, to kill these commanders of the Iranian military forces, and it's something that we worked many years to achieve because we understood that if they will not be stopped, the existence of Israel will be under a threat. Remember, we brought the archive of the nuclear project of Iran from Tehran. It's a very clear project to produce at first stage 5 nuclear bombs. That's what they prepared to do.
Right.
So from our point of view, the fact that we are acting against the regime in Tehran is a self-defense action that we are doing because they said, no, it's not that we are saying about them, they said that their goal is to destroy Israel. That is not going to happen, and for that you have to fight.
True. Major General Amidror, please stay with us. We've got the Deputy Foreign Minister of Iran speaking, Syed Khatibzadeh, speaking with CNN. And he has said that President Trump crossed a very dangerous red line after US-Israeli attacks killed the country's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. He's also said, and I'm quoting him, if President Trump didn't want to see Iran hitting back, President Trump should not have started this war. So this is what they're saying. So they are not backing off. They are going to give it their all. And in the past, they have said this, Burzin Wagmar, that Iran, if the Khamenei regime has to go, if you're going to push us out militarily, we will destroy Iran and everybody around us. So do you see that happening? And I'm asking you this, Burzin, because your ancestors have roots in Persia. And this is one of those persecuted groups in Iran who never had a voice for the last 5 decades. And their sacred flame is safe in Bharat, in Udwara. Burzin.
Iran's bluster is all of a piece with its beleaguered, embattled paranoia, sheer paranoia, which we see playing out in these scattergun approach attacks on civilians, including Oman. And I just wonder what Badr al-Busaidi, the Omani foreign minister, who was practically rehearsing from a Iran script, never mind an Omani script, was giving out that CBS Evening News interview that there is light at the end of the tunnel and that somehow within 3 months everything could be sorted out, including inspection sites undertaken and the rest of it. So that would be my immediate response to that. Another qualifier, please. Russia is not an OPEC member. It's a non-OPEC trading partner. And since, just a little levity, if you will permit me, since we've been going through a lot in the last few days, there is talk of India claiming refunds for, well, tariffs from DC. I just wonder if I could bring the attention of Indians coming from Iranian studies to the 20,000 crore scam, which in independent Indian history is practically second after the Telgi Papers scam, which took place with UCO Bank Calcutta and the Indo-Iran Real Rupee trade scam, and which is still undergoing investigation from your enforcement directorate in New Delhi. So maybe it's time to garner funds on both fronts as such. So I'll leave it at that for the moment.
True. And you make... it's not just levity, it makes practical sense. Everybody wants their pound of flesh, we just want our money back. So, some wry humor there in a serious conversation, viewers, please pardon that, but we couldn't resist. 3 US service members have been killed, 5 seriously injured during an operation against Iran. The Pentagon has now confirmed. The Israeli Defense Forces have now come out and said that they have just taken out, this is what the bus militia, or they've said the interim regime's general staff headquarters for internal security. So now they're now going after the bus militia and the police, because that's about 1 million strong. That's the one that polices the streets. That's the one that keeps these protesters at bay. And that's the ones who Trump has also blamed, has shot down nearly 32,000 protesters to cull down this entire protest, wave of protests that started brewing about 2.5 weeks ago. Sushant Sareen, thank you for your patience. How do you see this situation? From which perspective would you see? Would you want to look at it tactically in this region? What's going to happen in the next 10, 15 days? Or what's the larger end game here? Thank you for your patience.
No, not at all. Yeah, I understand. It's but Anand, look, let me just start by pushing back something you asked earlier. Why are the Americans doing what they are doing? And, you quoted all the laws and the rules. There's a simple answer. The Americans are doing it because they can do it. Now, if you had bought into the propaganda, then it's a you problem, not an American problem. So I think we need to be realistic about how the real world works and, live according to the reality of life rather than what it should be. It's never what it should be. Second, I think from purely from this regime change thing, look, I think I'm now quite convinced that even if you cannot effect a complete regime change, even within the regime you can't make a change. I think Israel, the United States, and perhaps even the Gulf states who have been targeted by Iran, I think they will want to emasculate Iran to a point where it is no longer any kind of a threat to any of these countries. So I don't see this campaign stop anytime soon unless Iran capitulates, because I don't think any of these countries is going to tolerate Iran, which can target them the way it has been targeting them. Third, I think there are some serious lessons for India. In the sense we have been, and I'm sitting in the presence of 2 very distinguished generals, and I'm going to shoot my mouth off. They can challenge me later on. Both of them are very respected people. But look, I think we really need to rethink our defense planning. I think some changes are being made, but the nature of warfare has changed. If I'm not mistaken, both of these gentlemen are infantry officers. And I'm going to say that, look, the day of the infantry is over. It's only after you have won a war, the infantry has to go and capture a place. Otherwise, wars are going to be fought the way they're being fought in most parts of the world nowadays.
Largely standoff positions, yeah.
Yeah, there are some very, very serious lessons for us. Third, on this whole evacuation bid, I think General Malik was talking about. Look, frankly speaking, if the Indian government had issued advisories weeks in advance, people should take those advisories seriously. Now, you cannot bloody expect the government of India in the middle of war when missiles are flying, airspaces are closed, that you are now going to send ships or aircraft to evacuate people. You can't do it. So either people take these advisories seriously and evacuate in time, and then it's the government's responsibility. But in the middle of a conflict, which everybody was seeing coming, and you were staying out there because let me stay for another few days, then too bad. Now you please wait until this damn war ends, right? It is not the... Why should Indian soldiers and Indian security personnel put their lives at risk because you did not follow instructions in time? Then I'll just make a couple of more points, right? Just allow me. You know, the Shia-Sunni divide which General Malik is worried about, frankly, it doesn't worry me. That divide has been there for 1500 years. It'll carry on for another 500 for all we care, and it might not be a bad thing. But I suspect...
General Dhillon, coming to you after Sushant completes. Yeah,
there is a possibility of something good coming out of this conflict. And let me try and explain to you how. One, if Iran gets a more reasonable kind of a regime, which is at peace with its neighbors and with the rest of the world, which is ready to march in step with the rest of the world, and does not do the kind of stuff which the current regime has been doing, I think that opens up a lot of space for India. If sanctions are lifted on Iran, the Iranian oil comes on the market, it cools down the global oil markets, it opens up avenues for India to build its connectivity projects in Iran. Second, I think if the Arab states were to now become more amenable to the Abraham Accords, I think that would usher in an era of peace in the Middle East.
Right.
And in an Indian perspective, it will be really good because then some of the other very ambitious connectivity projects that we are thinking about, in particular IMEC, which requires the Saudis to be on board, which requires Jordan and UAE already is on board. The Saudis are, vacillating on that. I think those projects come through, which are good for everybody in the region.
Right.
And
so
I think,
Sushant,
one country which really suffers the final outcome, apart from Iran, Iran might still recover. I hope it's the Turks, who have been the biggest troublemakers in the region. And I think if the Turks were to receive their comeuppance as a result of the new realignments which are going to take place in this region, I think it will be good for India, it will be good for Israel.
Now, Shahid 136 drone, just big development coming through. General Dhillon, your comments after that. The Saudi Arabian prince has come out and said, and the government has said, they are readying a response. If there are any more attacks by the Iranians in this region, they will respond militarily. And we're given to understand the Crown Prince has spoken to President Donald Trump. But this is another big news coming through. We're going to take that. An Iranian Shahid 136 drone has targeted an Emirati oil rig in the Persian Gulf. Now, this is in the Persian Gulf. This is not in the Strait of Hormuz necessarily. So, Adrian and Tom Cooper are with us in the studio. I'm just going to walk up here and you gentlemen can sit there. I'll just mark this out and what this actually means. I'll just see if I can. All right, let's just cancel this, delete that, and come here and explore this. Now, this is the Persian Gulf, viewers. It's not the Strait of Hormuz. So this is where it becomes. So this is the Strait of Hormuz. So this is Hormuz. But when it is targeted something in the Persian Gulf, what does that mean? Does this now mean the Iranians are itching for escalation? If this is in this region, if it is in this region, does that mean it becomes an escalation? Will the NATO nations now also move in because USS Abraham Lincoln has been targeted with ballistic missiles? Tom and Adrian, your thoughts?
Well, NATO is not going to become involved. NATO has its hands full with Russia and Ukraine already, at least the European part of the NATO. In regards of this attack on on oil rigs. Within the IGC, there are two streams. One is for militarization of such rigs and of islands in the Persian Gulf. The other is against it. Back in the 1980s, they have learned the lesson that arming or striking such facilities is a bad idea. Now it could be. This could be two things. One is that somebody in the chain of command has lost control, or that the unit in question has no idea what is going on, so they have used this UAV on their own. The other is that there is an order from Tehran to do so, to strike the rig in question. Now we do not have the details about who is ordering what.
Yes, we don't have those details, but it's an Emirati, so the UAE have now been dragged into it. General Dhillon, your thoughts?
Yeah, Anand, first about this Emirati oil rig being attacked by a drone or something. In the previous part of your program, about an hour ago, it was being told that whatever is hitting the Gulf countries, these are all debris of the drones or the missiles which have been intercepted. And I was of the opinion, debris not always fall on the airports or the five-star hotels, and now in this case on the oil rig, they fall everywhere, including the sea and the deserts. These are not the debris, these are very well targeted attacks on the installations to bring in the Gulf countries in the conflict. Now, having said this, I want to go back to a point which Mr. Sushant Sreen, a great friend, who made about infantry probably no more required. Yes, looking at the way things are happening in Gulf, he is right in saying that. But if you look at Indian borders, starting from Jammu, going right up to Siachen, and then turning eastwards along the Great Himalayas, going right up to Arunachal, then turning south against, right across opposite Myanmar, everywhere, wherever we have a dispute, is a hilly terrain, is a high altitude terrain, is a jungle terrain. And those are the places where holders are keepers, and those are the places which are active live borders. So infantry is very much required in Indian context. Let your viewers not get away with the idea that infantry is a thing of the past. Infantry was there in the past, infantry there is today. Infantry will remain relevant in Indian context, especially in the mountainous and jungle terrains where we have the live borders and live disputes with two nuclear neighbors who are not our friends.
Absolutely, absolutely. Point well made, General Saab. And like I said, Sushant Sareen has this habit of tickling the generals and the soldiers with comments. So please don't take
he's a very good friend. He's a very good friend.
So that's one. The other part is change the dynamics. Major General Amit Roar, your thoughts, the fact that an Emirati tanker has now been stuck in the Persian Gulf. It's not just even the Strait of Hormuz. It's happened in the Persian Gulf. What does this then do? Because in the recent past, Saudi Arabia and the UAE have had a little bit of a run-in. Will this now bring them together? And if Saudi Arabia says it's backing Bahrain, UAE and all the other countries for whatever response, including Oman, and with its full might, how do the dynamics in this region change?
We are now in the middle of this change. You heard the MBS from Saudi Arabia saying something about warning the Iranians not to continue. I hope that will bring them together, MBS and MBZ, to speak about the future of the Gulf countries. It's the interest of the Gulf countries, and indirectly or indirectly, it's the interest of India and Israel as well. The more they will be united, it will be easier to deal with the Iranian threat in the future, if it will be a threat, and to bring the economy into the scene by uniting both the Emirates and Saudi Arabia is part of an economic line going from India into the Mediterranean through Israel. But I want to say something about the situation now in Iran.
Yes, please.
Because from this reaction of Iran, I believe that the Iranians understand that they are facing a huge problem. And I don't believe that this is a mistake, that someone took the initiative. It was done by those who are controlling the Iranian forces, and it was an Iranian decision.
Right.
And I think that they slowly will have to understand that they don't have answer to the united capabilities of Israel and the United States of America, or better to say, America and the State of Israel. And they will have to make decision. Are they ready to continue, and we will continue to kill and to destroy part of their capabilities, or they will come to a conclusion that it is better to compromise and to understand that in the present situation they cannot win the war. They can continue the war, they can make many harm to countries around them, like what they did into the rig of the Emirates in the Gulf, but they cannot win the war.
Right. We've just got more updates. Viewers, if I'm looking down on our phone and laptop just to get more updates. There are 2-3 updates. We'll try and give it to you. Burzine Wagmar coming to you, and General Malik, thank you for your patience, sir. Coming back to you across. The IDF has just now said that they've initiated a wave of strikes in the heart of Tehran. So it's fresh strikes. Again, it's a night of, pounding that the Iranians are going to get, and there is... the Israel Air Force has initiated a wave of strikes in Tehran. Interception attempts are ongoing. That means they are now going after the internal infrastructure and to ensure a total breakdown of the regime hold, even internally within Iran. And they're going to stretch Iran thin. That's what it looks like in terms of the might of the assault. Meanwhile, US Army is saying that the USS Lincoln was not hit by Iranian missiles. The Lincoln continues. In fact, the missiles didn't even come close. So calling out each other's bluff is also happening now. So 4 ballistic missiles fired, etc. Sorry, it's not happening. Lincoln continues to launch aircraft in support of CENTCOM's relentless air campaign to defend American people by eliminating threats from the Iranian regime. Clearly, they're not going to allow their aircraft carrier to be hit, because if that's hit, then it will be a huge victory for the Iranians and a loss of face perhaps for the most powerful military in the world. But General Malik, are the Iranians running out of time? When I say Iranians, the Khamenei and the IRGC, are they running out of time, sir, here? And is this something which other nations will look at in terms of uncharted territory in wargaming, what the Americans and the Israelis have done this time?
Well, there is no doubt that as the events are showing, that the whole war is getting intensified for the next few days, at least one can see that. And the Arab countries are more likely to get together. You know, you were mentioning about the Saudi Arabia and the UAE, which have some kind of a divide in the area of Yemen. But I think they will get over that, and they will sooner or later, they will all fight unitedly. At the moment, they're all dependent on the USA as well as Israel for doing all the damage that is being done to Iran.
Right.
But if required, as it is, they are giving their basis for them to operate, and if required, they will probably get into the war themselves. But let's hope that it doesn't happen. Right. I just want to mention one point about Shia-Sunni divide. And Sushant, friend that he is, he's always trying to tickle the soldiers, as you said correctly. You know, the point is that Shia-Sunni divide in countries like South Asia and all can be a headache for us, because it can cause internal security problems. And it is happening in Pakistan. It can easily happen in India. You know, the areas where they are in majority, like Kargil itself, they are a huge majority they are in. And similarly in the area of Leh Ladakh also. And so these can cause, after all, they're all emotional people. At the moment, they're all united because their spiritual head has been assassinated. Yeah. And that can cause internal security problems, as it is happening in the in Pakistan. Right. But coming back to the war, yes, as I said earlier, sooner or later, I believe, and that's what I feel, that Iran will run out of capacity to continue with the war. And that is what we have to see, how long will it take. And that, of course, would be a great advantage for the people who are fighting against them.
Right. Burzine Wagmar had a comment to make. I'm going to get up and then just refocus our focus when we come back after a break. But Burzine, after your comment. Yes, Burzine.
Yeah. You mentioned about a victory for the Iranians. Has anyone factored in, should the IRGC Navy, which is manning the Persian Gulf waters and Strait of Hormuz, and very adept since the Iran-Iraq war days at laying mines or driving kamikaze boats towards US naval destroyers, were to undertake a hit, they will bring on Trump's full wrath. It'll be all gloves off. Not that any of the gloves are even on just now as we speak, but I do not see it as a victory for the Iranians, not even a Pyrrhic one, but it will be the beginning of the end of this regime in more ways than one. That's point number one. And point number two, which leads in a way from my point number one, because we have factored this in as Iran analysts, Anand, the bunkers theory. You see, these attacks, wanton attacks here, there, everywhere, Dubai airport, Bahrain hotels, so on and so forth, is to sensationalize and be audacious and to make GCC allies quiver nervously because they know Iran is a regional heavyweight. And this is what the regime has thought out, which we have worked out too.
Right.
Based on this bizarre, perverse notion they have. Just think, Anand, they feel that by attacking the GCC would put pressure on Trump to save our skins and therefore come back to the talks and resume the talks. And therefore, Tehran would walk into the room this time for talks a bit more triumphantly, making stronger demands and digging their heels in. I mean, I don't know which planet the Iranians are on, but I do know then again, because they are apocalyptic, millenarian-minded Shias who will go down, which is precisely what happened to Khamenei. Maddeningly indecisive and ineffectual as a ruler, he could never compromise the raison d'etre of the regime to which he was wedded since 1979. And therefore, this is why the talks have forestalled also at Geneva and elsewhere, because it questions the very core identity and sovereignty and pride of the Islamic Revolution on which everything has been built, and it would unravel. This is the bonkers theory that they have been proposing and which we have worked out, and they actually still believe that they can bring Trump back to talks by throwing a few bombs here, there in Dubai and Kuwait and elsewhere. Fat chance that is happening.
Right. This time around, I think somewhere Trump had tried to delay they've come with a plan. There's a plan and it's a 10-day blueprint. In 10 days, want a thing that could happen. And somewhere, if you look at Shah Raza Pahlavi, he seems to be outing the plan farther and faster than anybody else, because he keeps telling the people in Iran, get ready. I'll tell you when to start moving. Then he turns around and says, do this, because now this is going to happen. So he's as good as outing the entire blueprint for the common person. But is that, but there's a larger game too. Viewers, being very honest with you, was asked to take a break about 15 minutes ago. We just have about 8 minutes left here on this broadcast before we hit top of 9 p.m. I thank all our guests joining from outside of the studio. Before we take a break, this is what we're going to do now. We're going to now start to broaden the focus. You see, this is where the activity is happening. But these are nations who are watching closely. Turkey, there is China here, and Russia here. These are the ones who are going to look at what's going to happen here, and these developments here are going to impact them very, very strongly. Why? How? We'll tell you along with our ears to the ground with Sanjay Suri when we come back. Stay with us.
Viewers, the war is on. The war is on in the Middle East, and it is only widening by the minute. And it was expected that the Iranian regime would fold, but it hasn't. It has decided to dig its heels deep into the ground, and it is fighting with its back to the wall. Unprecedented visuals coming out from the Middle East, viewers, today. We will first begin with the most emblematic picture that we were expecting to see, or we would have expected to see, but perhaps not today, in the next few days. But viewers, unfortunately for Ayatollah Khamenei, the first visuals that are coming out from Iran are of his own decapitation. These, viewers, are the IRGC headquarters. This is where somehow, God knows how, Ayatollah was present in the most expected location, He was not supposed to be there, viewers. Anyone else would have decided not to be at the most obvious site, the site where perhaps the Americans and the Israelis would target first. Why he was there, we don't know. Did someone give him away? We don't know. But the fact is, viewers, in the first wave, in what was being called the preemptory attack by the United States and Israel, Ayatollah Khamenei's end came. For about 8 hours, Iran refused to confirm. It took President Trump on Truth Social to come out and say that Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, had been decapitated in a strike that had been conducted by Israeli and American forces. 40 bunker busters pummeled this headquarters. It's in the heart of Tehran. As I said, viewers, it was the most obvious site. Why the Ayatollah chose to be there, we don't know. But we do know that with him went a number of other senior leaders. And you can see these buildings basically being reduced to rubble within seconds. The impact was so devastating that for a mile around this building, viewers, you can see that road there. All those cars zipping past, but within minutes, seconds, entire area was covered in a pall of smoke. Nothing was left, viewers, of that site. And with him went Ayatollah Khamenei. 40 years he had been ruling Iran. His hold was a stranglehold. The people of Iran feared him. 50% of the population hated him. But he hung on there, viewers. He hung on only to be removed in this unseemly fashion by multiple strikes that were conducted in what was described as a preemptive.
Yeah, this is a really new and big step by the Crown Prince here to authorize the possibility of Saudi response if Iran attacks Saudi Arabia again. He called their attacks yesterday and in the early hours of today cowardly. He said that these attacks by Iran were cowardly because Iran knew, the Crown Prince said, Iran knew that Saudi airspace was not being used to attack Iran, and this has incensed him. There have been attacks around the capital here that have been intercepted. There was an attack near a military airfield in the north of the country. There have been attacks further east, much closer to the Persian Gulf, much closer to Iran. They've been repelled so far, but the Crown Prince has said that because of Iran's actions, he is putting the country, Saudi Arabia's security first, the safety of its territory, the safety of its citizens, the safety of its residents. He's putting those things first. And for that reason, he says, he is authorizing the right and the military here to respond if they are attacked by Iran. And also we heard from the Foreign Ministry here on their Twitter feed last night that the Crown Prince had a telephone conversation with President Trump, and in that conversation the Crown Prince had full support from President Trump. This is how the Saudis were reporting it. Full support from President Trump for how they should respond. And this is yet another example of how Iran has turned these Gulf states here, these very powerful, militarily strong Gulf states, from being bystanders in Israel and the United States attacks on Iran into now potential participants. It ratchets up the fluidity of the situation here, the dynamic of what is happening. People here in Saudi Arabia are concerned about what happens next, but not as worried and not as under as much threat as some of the Gulf neighbors that are closer to Iran. And the Crown Prince has spoken with them and promised those countries like Qatar, like Bahrain, like the United Arab Emirates of support as they go through, all these countries go through this together.
Viewers, the war is on. The war is on in the Middle East, and it is only widening by the minute. And it was expected that the Iranian regime would fold, but it hasn't. It has decided to dig its heels deep into the ground, and it is fighting with its back to the wall. Unprecedented visuals coming out from the Middle East, viewers, today. We will first begin with the most emblematic picture that we were expecting to see, or we would have expected to see, but perhaps not today, in the next few days. But viewers, unfortunately for Ayatollah Khamenei, the first visuals that are coming out from Iran are of his own decapitation. These, viewers, are the IRGC headquarters. This is where somehow, God knows how, Ayatollah was present in the most expected location. He was not supposed to be there, viewers. Anyone else would have decided not to be at the most obvious site, the site where perhaps the Americans and the Israelis would target first. Why he was there, we don't know. Did someone give him away? We don't know. But the fact is, viewers, in the first wave, in what was being called the preemptory attack by the United States and Israel, Ayatollah Khamenei's end came. For about 8 hours, Iran refused to confirm. It took President Trump on Truth Social to come out and say that Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, had been decapitated in a strike that had been conducted by Israeli and American forces. 40 bunker busters pummeled this headquarters. It's in the heart of Tehran. As I said, viewers, it was the most obvious site. Why the Ayatollah chose to be there, we don't know. But we do know that with him went a number of other senior leaders. And you can see these buildings basically being reduced to rubble within seconds. The impact was so devastating that for a mile around this building, viewers, you can see that road there. All those cars zipping past, but within minutes, seconds, entire area was covered in a pall of smoke. Nothing was left, viewers, of that site. And with him went Ayatollah Khamenei. 40 years he had been ruling Iran. His hold was a stranglehold. The people of Iran feared him. 50% of the population hated him. But he hung on there, viewers. He hung on only to be removed in this unseemly fashion by multiple strikes that were conducted in what was described as a preemptory strike, but it could turn out to be, viewers, the end strike. Because now Trump can legitimately go back to the people. He gets an off-ramp and he says, I've done what no other US president since Jimmy Carter could do, which is to eliminate and sever the head of the snake, the Ayatollah. Of course, viewers, Ayatollah Khamenei's predecessor was the founder of the Islamic Republic of Iran. He died a natural death, succession happens, and in that succession, it took 40 years, viewers. 40 years. Ayatollah Khamenei held on. No more, viewers. He's been reduced to ashes, dust to dust, ashes to ashes, as they say. That story, that chapter closes. We now know that others have begun to succeed him, viewers, and there is a whole succession plan. It's going to be run, the country is going to be run by an interim authority of 3 leaders, and over a period of time, these leaders are expected to either give shape to a turn in Iran, or, viewers, continue down the radical path and continue down the path to war. Now, viewers, what we didn't expect were these scenes. Right after that attack, which took out the Iranian leadership, the Iranians, as I said, battened down the hatches and they hit back. And they have hit back, viewers, across the
Namaste and thank you for staying with us here at CNN News 18 as we have been on a rolling coverage right since America and Israel decided to launch Operation Epic Fury or Operation Lion's Roar against Iran, and Iran decided that revenge is their duty after their supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei was assassinated. The Middle East is now engulfed in a full-scale regional war. In a stunning development, Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei has been eliminated in a joint US-Israeli strike on Tehran. The operation, codenamed Epic Fury by America, is targeting Iran's nuclear sites and also their ballistics missiles and manufacturing stations. In retaliation, Tehran has unleashed waves of ballistic missiles launched at Tel Aviv and also American bases across the Gulf. US has rejected Iranian claims that US aircraft carrier USS Abraham Lincoln was attacked by Iran. Meanwhile, the conflict has also spilled on into the heart of the Gulf, with Dubai under direct attack. Flights at the Dubai International Airport are halted as missile debris has fallen near the Palm Jumeirah area and also Burj Al Arab. And also other Gulf nations including Qatar, Bahrain, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia and Oman are also under fire. And more importantly, viewers, there is activity in the Strait of Hormuz, despite Iran saying they have no intent to close the Strait of Hormuz. But a tanker belonging to Oman and an Emirati ship has also been, merchant vessel, has also been bombed by the Iranians. One in the Strait of Hormuz, while it was trying to enter it, the other one in the Persian Gulf. Saudi Arabia is very, very upset and it's warned Iran. UAE is now coming together. The Omanis, the Bahrainis, all of them are looking at Iran and saying, what are you trying to do? Because we may now just combine ranks and push all our might against you. When we say you, the IRGC and of course the remaining leadership of the current regime. Regime change is what everybody is asking for. Let's try and understand how the top leadership of Iran has been eliminated so far. And that's the full list. It's all from the top. The Americans and the Israelis seem to have planned it, that this is how they're going to create a leadership vacuum or a hole for the people of Iran to finally perhaps come back and take control. Let's look at this. The supreme leadership, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. In the defense sector, National Head of Defense Council, Ali Shamkhani, very close to Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, the supreme leader. Ali Larjiani, Secretary of Supreme National Council. Masoud Pezeshkian, the president, he is now holed up in a bunker. There is Cholam Hussein Mohseni, the head of the judiciary. Aziz Nazardeh, the defense minister. Then you have the Abdul Rahim Musavi, Chief of Staff of Iran's Armed Forces, Mohammad Pakpor, and then you have Ghalibaf, the Parliament Speaker. In fact, this entire straight line has been wiped out. He is still alive, the Parliament Speaker. That's what they are coming out and saying. Masoud Pezeshkian is still alive, and the head of judiciary and head of the National Security Council. So the sides, the wings are still alive. But the center, the core of their entire defense command and leadership has been wiped out, has been eliminated. That's what we are given to understand. And now let's try and also tell you how this was choreographed or orchestrated by the Americans and the Israelis. Let's try and understand this. Let's tell you how Ayatollah Ali Khamenei was killed. The inside story of the entire decapitation strike, that's what the USS Israeli Combine is calling it. There was a strategic build-up. There was weeks of US force mobilization in the Middle East that signaled imminent escalation. June 2025, there was a precursor because there were strikes that were conducted earlier, and they tried to see how deep and how well established are the Iranian installations, establishment. And after that, it's been continuous painstaking intelligence gathering on ground and also from the skies. Earlier Israeli attacks they actually degraded Iran's air defenses. Key IRGC commanders and also their nuclear scientists were systematically eliminated. Then, as part of the entire decapitation doctrine, Israel's operations also organized its overall long hair, operationalizing its long-held strategy against Israel. It actually went ahead and dismantled the command and control before a broader regime as destabilization. Joint targeting grid was created. US-Israeli grid was the intel actually fused satellite, cyber and human intelligence. That's how it was done. Then to map the hardened, several joint resources to map hardened leadership bunkers. Where were they being moved? Which were the bunkers? And of course, the opening salvo, dozens of precision strikes hitting the nuclear facilities, missile depots, IRGC command nodes also were hit. Air defense suppression was done. Iranian radar and SAMS batteries were neutralized in the first wave. And then, after the first wave of strikes blinded Tehran's response capability, communications blackout came into play. Cyber ops were also conducted to disrupt secure military communications and internal channels. Internet was blocked and disrupted so that there could be no communication or dissemination of information. And the moment you have communication breaks, there is darkness. In terms of darkness and communication, you have the opportunity to move in for the kill in terms of the kinetic action. Target lock, Supreme Leader's compound, and of course then intel pinpointing Ayatollah Ali Khamenei's location with the family. There was a conference, and within a fortified command complex, precision strikes. There was bunker busters were used, but deep underground. So the first one blows, creates a hole, another one comes, creates a deeper hole, and the final one goes right through and then causes maximum damage. So they targeted subterranean structures, the structures designed to withstand conventional assault, hit, and also command collapse. Of course, the entire senior military leadership has already been weakened. The moment there's a leadership vacuum, then you know that the foot soldiers don't know what to do, and there will be absolute chaos and confusion. Created a vacuum at the apex of power, despite Iran trying to democratize the leadership and create at least 3-4 shadow leaders, so that one goes, the other one comes in, that goes, another one comes in. They've still tried to put somebody there, but beyond how many layers can you create? And if I wipe out all the layers, then there is a rookie and somebody who does not know who's there, or there may be somebody who's pliant and does not actually hold the kind of anti-US, anti-Israeli sentiment like the top three and the top leadership did. So we have to wait and watch if that's been achieved. US President Trump publicly announcing Ali Khamenei's death after multiple indications from Bibi Netanyahu and also from other sources. Finally, President Trump confirming that that's what's happened, and then Iranian state media later confirmed Khamenei's death. Psychological shockwave that was sent across, and then of course there is anger. There is this promise that revenge is now our duty. You've killed the supreme leader, we'll not let this lying down. But it may take us a few days, a few months, a few years, but be rest assured that that radical group that believed that Ayatollah Ali Khamenei is the one who's the supreme leader, they will be eyeing revenge. So that's what they would do. And finally, the Iranians coming back and saying, we are going to fight back. Emily Francis, host of I-24 News, is with us. Emily, and you are Beit Shemesh. So can we ask you, what's the situation on ground, and is it true that the Iranians did fire a hypersonic missile there? Thank you.
Hi. Thank you, Anas. Thank you for having us. Listen, this is a very mountainous area that is very hard to get to. It has been a very, very difficult scene with a lot of moving parts. Yes, it was a direct ballistic missile hit shot from Iran. It happened in the late morning hours today. This after overnight direct missile hit in Tel Aviv, where a woman who was actually a caretaker, not from Israel, was taking care of an elderly woman. She passed away. But here in broad daylight, Beit Shemesh was rocked by a missile with a warhead said to be about 500 kilograms. The area is behind me. I can try to move this. I hope not to have a technical issue. But up on this hill is a big crater. But because there were other potential incoming missiles, they had to ask us to leave. But there are hundreds of people there on the scene. There are 9 that are confirmed dead, reports of more, also more than a dozen are unaccounted for. And what we understand, even though you see high rises here with some damage, this was residual ricocheting damage from the missile itself. That is how neighbors describe what happened. But the small houses on the hill is where the direct hit was, because everybody was sheltering in a synagogue in the shelters people go to. But because these buildings and shelters are old, it's not enough to withstand a ballistic missile. So That is what happened. It's quite tragic. Also, a 4-year-old was in pretty severe condition, but we're told now that he has undergone surgery and is expected to be okay. But a very grisly scene here right now in Beit Shemesh.
We're told that at least 8 people are dead, and condolences. Now, what's happened is civilians being targeted is never good, either ways, whichever side faces the brunt of war or conflict. But Emily, what was the epicenter of this target? Was it an electronics facility? Was it a civilian area? What was the intended target?
This is a civilian area. Yes, they are, pointing directly to civilian areas. I mean, the ones that hit in Tel Aviv was next to Habima, which is the cultural center and the famous Rothschild Avenue. I have a friend that lives there, and all of her windows broke. So they are targeting areas where civilians live. Here in Beit Shemesh, actually, is a very popular neighborhood for Anglos that move to Israel, make aliyah to Israel. There's a large English-speaking community here with English schools. Most people tend to be more observant. So this children, parks, kids' activities. I mean, this is what they're doing. They're not targeting, special intelligence facilities. They're targeting human beings, including myself. I spent the weekend yesterday with my own kids going up and down about 10 times. You could hear Air Force jet. Could you hear that?
Yes.
Yeah, we hear jets flying overhead. You can't see because it's cloudy. But, aside from the tragedy that's happening here, it is, it's something, unfortunately, that those of us here in Israel have gotten used to in the past 2.5 years. But they're purposely, every 15 minutes, you have children. If you don't have a safe room in your home, which the more modern apartments have, all your neighbors are in a basement, kids, dogs, waking children up in the middle of the night. It's quite disturbing. But we're just hoping that this doesn't continue to happen. I don't know how to answer what that is. It does sound like an Air Force plane. We are we're near Jerusalem, so we're in the middle of the country, southern middle. Yes.
But, do they sound like aircraft?
Very unfortunate.
Do they sound like aircraft? Do they sound like missiles?
It sounds like, it's a military aircraft. No, it's a military aircraft. It sounds like an Israeli aircraft, not a missile.
Okay.
Famous last words.
No, not last words, and we wish you good health, to you and your family. But let me ask you, Emily, and before we go across to other guests, Bibi Netanyahu has also now reacted, saying that there's going to be more in the coming days. What is Israel's expectation here? Because the world is also looking at Israel as a warmonger. Would you agree with that? Would you agree with the position that's been taken by US, Israel, and Saudi Arabia vis-a-vis the Khamenei regime in Iran?
No, Israel is not. Listen, the people are divided in the country, about the prime minister and the way of handling the war. But I think that the world, as we've seen, likes to blame, everything on Israel. This is the United States. This is a threat on the United States. The world, we know how the narrative has been framed. Clearly, not everything is perfect here, and the country itself is divided. But what I think everybody agrees, I imagine those of you in India as well, whether you're political or you're right or left, we don't want to have to live in fear of having to continue to go into bomb shelters and continue to send our children to fight in the army. Everybody wants to have peace here, and I think that the people of Iran, no one, a lot of times you see more focus on what Israel's doing. Versus you don't see the alarms of people in many parts of the world about all of the Iranians that want their country back as well, that are being killed. So we can't forget about how the people on the ground, who have been very supportive, the Iranian people reach out to me. Somehow they're able to see I-24, many of them, and they say, we're with you. And I think that's civilians on both sides wish to have a relationship again without this regime.
Well, if regime changes the intent, will that be achieved as a goal? We'll have to say. Emily, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Emily. Stay safe, and thank you for joining us here. Good to have you with us.
Thank you. And we love you. We love India, and your Prime Minister came to see us.
Well, the sentiment is very, very mutual, Emily. So, and you could see that the warmth was flowing on both ends, both between the leaders and also its people. May these bonds only strengthen further. We've just got more news. Have to move on to that quickly. Viewers, Prime Minister Netanyahu on the rooftop of the IDF headquarters in Tel Aviv. And he's come out and said that the strikes on Iran will only intensify in the coming days. And he's further said, we are in a battle in which we are mobilizing every force of the Israeli army as never before to ensure our existence and our future. So, Tom Cooper, Adrian Fontanella is with me in the studio, and they've been tirelessly working with us. We just perhaps understood how a newsroom in Bharat actually functions round the clock, spending the whole day with us. Very different from YouTube, very different from writing, Tom, but thank you for your time. We also introduce our other guests before I get your comments in. Professor Danny Orbach, author and military historian from the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, is also with us. Ambassador Ashok Sajjanar with us, and Sushant Sareen stays on. Thank you, gents. Namaste. But Tom, you heard what Emily had to say. They're saying civilian establishments, and Netanyahu has come out and said this is going to only intensify in the coming days. Just as we have confirmation from the Americans that the B-52 bombers did a full round trip and they dropped a heavy payload at a ballistic missile manufacturing site and storage site not so long ago. Yes, your thoughts?
Well, on one side I must, for example, observe Beit Shemesh is right next to Sdot Micha, which is the main Israeli base for ballistic missiles and nuclear weapons.
Oh, is that the case? So let's look at this. Let's put it in perspective. I'm going to bring up the mic. Let's understand. So there is more to it than meets the eye, viewers. So let's just shake things up, wake things up a little, and also, and then dive in here. Okay, so this is Iraq, Iran, and then you go up to Sana'a. And there you go. That's Israel.
Just a second to turn it around.
Yes. Okay. Just some patience. Yeah. Okay. This is Beit Shemesh. Yes. Okay. We got now the right. Pen. And now we can write.
Sorry.
Oh, you want to increase the size? Yeah. Okay. Delete it. Yeah.
Right here is Dot Micha.
Okay. Should we just open it a little?
Yeah.
We open it. That's Beit Shemesh.
And this complex here.
Okay. Now you can draw.
So this complex here is Dot Micha.
Dot Micha. It's called DOT?
SDOT.
SDOT.
Yes.
And MI?
MICH.
CH.
Yes. A.
So Dot Micha. Dot Micha, what is this? This is there?
This is
their ballistic
missile base, 140th Squadron of the Israeli Air Force with nuclear warheads and similar equipment.
So 140th
Squadron.
140 Squadron. Okay.
Yes.
This is the space. And this is where the ballistic missile the Iranians have tried to launch.
I guess that they were trying either to hit electronic industry in the town or arrow batteries, anti-ballistic missile battery protecting Beit Shemesh and Dot Micha or the base itself.
Okay, because what they said is that it was on top of a hilly area. That's where. So, this is S. Dot Micha. This is where it is. You've got S. Dot Micha.
This is the complex. I'm pointing at the complex. This is the place called S. Dot Micha.
S. Dot Micha.
But it is known outside of Israel. It is known as Dot Micha.
Dot Micha. So base, that's the place. So that's what was being targeted. And there's a reason why I asked Tom Cooper this, because when Emily said it's a civilian area that's being targeted, Tom Cooper had a wry smile on his face, and I said there's more to it than meets the eye. So the Israelis are targeting the ballistic missile facilities of the Iranians.
And the Americans as well.
And the Americans as well.
Yes.
The Americans of the Iranians. So the Iranians are saying, hey, we also know where your depots are, so we're going to start this. So this is the real dimension of war. It's not that Iran is targeting civilian facilities. It's targeting, or its aim is to try and hit those facilities that are actually, viewers, very close and military installations, which are also close to civilian establishments, and that's where sometimes on both sides there is collateral damage. But you have to understand what's the real point of view, the real inside story, and that's why we're getting you the details from inside the bunker with Tom Cooper. But Adrian, let's just play out Bibi Netanyahu and then bring in our other guests. Let's listen into what the Israel Prime Minister had to say.
Just finished a meeting with the defense minister, the chief of staff, and the head of the Mossad. I have given instructions for the continuation of the campaign. Yesterday, we eliminated the tyrant Khamenei. Along with him, we eliminated dozens of senior officials of the oppressive regime. Our forces are now striking in the heart of Tehran with increasing intensity, and this will only continue to intensify even more over the coming days. And yet, these are painful days. Yesterday here in Tel Aviv and now in Beit Shemesh, we have lost dear people. My heart goes out to the families, and I send, on behalf of all of you, citizens of Israel, wishes for a speedy recovery to the wounded. We are in a campaign in which we are bringing the full force of the IDF as never before to this campaign to ensure our existence and our future. But we are also bringing to this campaign the assistance of the United States, my friend, the President of the United States, Donald Trump, the United States military, and this combination of forces allows us to do what I have been wishing to do for 40 years, to strike the terror regime hip and thigh. This is what I promised, and this is what we will do.
So, Bibi Netanyahu says, I've been wanting to do this for 40 years, and finally I'm able to do that, to hit this regime hip and thigh. And the regime, now Donald Trump turns around and says that 48 Iranian leaders are gone in one shot. That's what President Trump is saying. America knows how many targets are left. But the Iranians are saying, we also know where your weak points are and where we want to hit you. And no matter what happens to us, we will hit you too. That's what they are saying, Fatah Khabar, the Iranians. We've got one more thing. German Chancellor has come out and said Iran's mullah regime is coming to an end. Germany's Chancellor is saying after the killing of the Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei. Now, is this going to escalate further, or if there is a leadership vacuum in the Iranian leadership, the regime, will the people now want a turn? Now, if that turn happens, who's next? Because there is nobody, no other alternative. Or will America say, oh, listen, our job was just to move the regime. We've moved them out. Now you decide what you want to do. And then we have a whole new mess in Iran. Adrian.
I think it is absolutely the weak point of the American and Israeli strategy, because it is roughly hoping for the best. So if they manage to weaken the regime, and if the population revolt, it is two big ifs. But even so, there is no one who can predict what will happen after a while, because the Islamic Republic was a dictatorship, so there was no organized opposition political party. So you are basically not knowing what you are going into. And we have precedents about such circumstances. It was Syria and it was Libya. Let's say it didn't end very well.
Yeah.
Or at least not before a decade of civil war. So normally, and it is what the Indians did during Operation Sindoor. The political leadership has to set clear political goals, and then the armed forces are operating on the operational tactical level, and they use violence, they use force to pursue this political strategic objective. But in these circumstances, I'm sorry, but the political objective is unclear. And if the political objective is unclear, there is no way the use of force can give precise and determined results.
So you're comparing this with Op Sindoor, and viewers, this is very interesting. Let's get Professor Danny Obak to respond on this, and then we'll bring in Ambassador Sajanhar and also Sushant Sareen, Tom Cooper too. But Professor Danny Obak, the comparison with Op Sindoor is that Bharat knew exactly what the objective was, what the goal was. When that goal was achieved, the pause button was pressed. We backed off. In this case, there is no clarity. what is the political objective, and when that happens, there is no defining the military activity behind it. Professor Rob.
You know, I'd like to challenge your assumptions and the assumptions of my colleague here. Usually the imagination that every war is a close knitted strategy and political plan behind it for the day after, this is nonsense. This is the illusion and the myth of armchair strategists. Usually wars are being conducted under a lot of uncertainty. Give you one example, in the Second World War, nobody knew what the day after would be until 44, 45. I'm making a complicated story simple. In this case, though, what the operation is set to achieve is A, to weaken the regime enough that there will be an option for a popular uprising. The popular uprising is not the goal. Maybe it will be, maybe it will not be. But the main goal is to destroy the assets of the Iranian regime, the navy, the remnants of the nuclear program and the ballistic missiles program that threaten the region. That's the main issue. Revolution in Iran, who knows?
So the idea is to wipe out the nuclear capabilities and also the ballistic missile capability.
In the navy, the Iranian navy.
And the Iranian navy, so that's why the corvette has been sunk. But armchair strategists will not understand this, Tom Cooper, that you cannot have a political objective
during the Second World War.
Things are evolving.
Perfectly clear. During the Second World War, things were perfectly clear as early as 1941, when Roosevelt and Churchill sat down together and started building up the future United Nations. And there was never a discussion about the beyond the fact that they are aiming to destroy the Nazi regime in Germany and remove the one in Italy, but especially to destroy the one in Germany and to replace it with one which is then peaceful. In this case, there is no such clarity.
In this case, there is no such clarity. Let's bring in our other guests and ask them. Ambassador Sajanhar, which side are you on? Adrian and Tom Cooper or Professor Orbach?
You know, thank you very much, Anand. I have always been saying that the game plan, the strategy for the day after is very unclear, is very unknown. And that is very critical, that is very crucial, you know, because you have to know, how do you end it? There is the comparison that was given with Op Sindoor. You know, we were completely dominating the escalation ladder. We knew how it was going, we were controlling it. And we knew when to stop it, when our objectives have been achieved. But as far as this is concerned, you know, the idea that was given was regime change. Okay, fine, if you get this regime out, what comes in its place? You know, it has not been articulated. We have heard Mr. Trump saying, I know exactly, you know, who is going to sort of, take over. But the only person who has been on the scene, on the horizon, who has said, that I would like to come back and take over the reins, that is Reza Pahlavi. But he has received no endorsement whatsoever from the American side or from any of the others. The second point is, maybe what the Americans and the Israelis thought that there would be a huge upsurge of support for removing this regime from there, the Islamic regime from there. But that doesn't seem to have come. And the reason, if you permit, I'll say in 2 words. Number one, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei has been killed. He's a religious leader, so all there is this uprising in terms of the religious support for him. The opposition to this regime is economic, is much more economic because of the hardships that they have been subjected to. Of course, it's been political also, but as far as religious aspect is concerned, that is where you see all these people coming out. And the last point here is any people, and the Iranian are proud people, if you try to engineer something from the outside, then it will be difficult to get people to sort of, subscribe to that point of view. That is why maybe to an extent what the Americans and the Israelis are saying, let them decide what they want to do. But without a leader, it becomes very, very difficult, if not absolutely impossible, to see where things are going.
True, but the fact is that there is no internal leadership. What are you going to leave Iran back with and for the rest of the people in Iran? Sushant Sareen, which side are you on? Is there a clear objective? End the regime, finish the nuclear weapons program, damage the entire ballistics missile program, job done? Or should there be a larger, clearer objective? Ji, you're on mute.
I would imagine that's a very clear objective. If those are your three objectives, even if you don't get regime change, but you denuclearize Iran and you, like I said earlier, you emasculate it so that it's not a threat to any of the other countries around, then I think the purpose of this conflict has been served.
Right.
And if in the process you can also effect a regime change, then yes, that's the icing on the cake. But I think we should be careful when we say about the role of the supreme leader as the religious head. Look, there are many surveys from Iran which claim that 30 to 40, maybe even a larger number of people are actually atheists. They don't subscribe to the mullahs in Iran. They, in fact, they despise them, they abhor them. Among the rest of the people, I think there would again be a split of people who might be religious but do not subscribe to the mullahcracy in Iran. And then, of course, there would be a substantial number of people who would be entirely with the current regime and back it and actually benefit from it and support it wholeheartedly. So, in that sense, would be a split society. For anyone to claim that Khamenei was some kind of an imam and that everybody will genuflect before him, even in the Shia in the Shia hierarchy of spiritual leaders, he doesn't really stack up to the guy from Iraq, Ali Sistani.
Yeah.
So I think we need to be careful on that count. Secondly, I agree that there is no visible leadership, alternate leadership available outside the current regime. Now, frankly, I think anybody who thinks that you're going to bring in Raza Pahlavi and install him out there, he will be as big a disaster as that fly-by-night operator that the Americans had got convinced by and who took them for a royal ride in Iraq, a man by the name of Ahmed Chalabi.
Yeah.
Right? You want to repeat that kind of a thing? Yeah, go ahead, be my guest. But I don't think Raza Pahlavi is a credible figure. And we saw even in Afghanistan, after the Taliban had been deposed in 2001, the king came back, but the king never became the king. Right? The world had moved on, the country had moved on. The king might have been a very respected person, but he was not acceptable as king. I would imagine something similar would happen in Iran, where yes, a bunch of people who would be royalists, but I think by and large, I don't see the acceptability of Raza Pahlavi.
So if there are perhaps a situation where there would be free and fair elections, why did you say that you agreed with Sushant there, Tom, when he talked about the clerical leadership not being the supreme leader, not having the kind of position?
Because there were significant doubts about qualification of late Ayatollah, Grand Ayatollah Khamenei, his religious qualifications. And several of his opponents within the clergy landed not directly in a prison, but under similar circumstances because they were opposing him.
Right.
And he de facto capped himself to power.
Right. We're just getting to understand there's a fresh wave of airstrikes. There's a larger, this one, of course. Okay, now there is some welcome news to those who are stuck in Abu Dhabi, in Dubai. The Emirati government has come out and said the Department of Culture and Tourism has directed hotels to extend the stay of guests unable to travel due to current restrictions. The authority has said the cost of extended stays will be covered by the Department of Culture and Tourism Abu Dhabi, and hotels have been asked to send related invoices to the department. So that is something which is critical, imperative, and for us to put out. We put that out. I've just read out because it's just come into the system, viewers. I've read it even before our team at the back end has been ready to even put that out. They will put it out. You'll see the notice. We'll also call out the notice here on our screens if we can, on the big screen, and I'll go across and read it just as when they're ready. quickly just taking 30 seconds to thank our team at the back end. There are people behind the cameras, behind the scenes, who've been working non-stop for 14 to 16 hours, if not more, ever since this development happened to get you this kind of coverage. So I'm proud to be part of a team that is News 18, and we got two fresh additions through the day who've seen what we are going through when a situation like this. That's in Adrian and Tom. But coming back to this, there is a fresh wave of strikes in Tehran. So that means there's going to be much more activity that's going to happen. Let's just broad base this conversation if we can, and I'll read out the news, the Abu Dhabi update in a bit. Let's go back to what we said, viewers, a short while ago. We are going to look at the larger picture. So let's zoom out a little more, and look at this entire region and understand from a strategic point of view what this activity means to, let's say, an Ankara. And further down, I'm just going to come back and just roll this back and roll this out a little more, and let's bring out some of the other countries that we wanted to speak about. There you go. All right. This is Google, the Google map. Yeah, Russia and this entire region. So I wanted to bring in Russia. There had to be Ankara. There is China. Now let's look at this region and what's happening here, and then try and understand from everybody, each of our guests, starting with them in the studio, what does it mean for a Turkey? What does it mean for Afghanistan, Pakistan, all that's happening here, this entire construct? And then there is Beijing, that's China, and then of course there is Moscow or Russia here. So what does it mean for this entire region and the developments here based on what is happening in this region? This is the fight and what's happening in Iran. How do things change the dynamics? So let's start with Turkey, which is offered. So there is this Turkey, Iran, China, Pakistan kind of an axis that's been developing. What happens to that axis? Tom? You're welcome to join me here.
If you don't
so
mind.
let's just get this mic. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Let's start with Turkey. So
the pen is on.
This was
all right.
To understand the Turkish position, we have to take a look over here.
Right.
This is the African Horn.
Yeah.
Lately, Turkey was concerned, together with Egypt and Algeria and Saudi Arabia, that Israel and the United Arab Emirates have a sort of alliance and are working on destroying all of these countries, breaking them up into small, ungovernable entities, parastates, and so on. For example, they have...
Djibouti.
No, just a second. It's next to Djibouti is area called Somaliland. It is a part of Somalia, which has declared its independence from the rest of Somalia. Correspondingly, this was recognized by Israel, and it was recognized by United Arab Emirates. And they have started moving or developing diplomatic relations, and with the idea to sometimes deploy their armed forces there as well.
Correct.
Then in Sudan,
there is that South Sudan.
This is Sudan. Just a second. This is Sudan. This part of the country is controlled by RSF, Rapid Support Forces, which is an ally or paid by United Arab Emirates and by Russia.
Okay.
So then